Welcome back to Pop Flashback. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the making of, The Godfather, a real classic, right? But I bet you there's a lot going on behind the scenes that most people don't even know about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be surprised by what it took to get this film made. There were major challenges right from the get-go. For instance, casting Don Corleone, the main man himself.
Oh yeah, I was reading about that. Seems like Paramount, the studio, they weren't exactly thrilled with Coppola's choice, were they? I mean, wanting Marlon Brando for the role, that was a big deal.
It was a huge sticking point, actually. I mean, Brando, he wasn't exactly a sure bet at the time. His career had, kind of cooled off. And he also had this reputation, let's say, for being a little, difficult on set.
Oh, I can imagine. So how did Coppola manage to convince them? That must have been some serious persuading.
Well, Coppola, he was really committed to his vision. He was absolutely convinced that Brando, and only Brando, could really nail the essence of Don Corleone. And to prove his point, he went ahead and he arranged screen tests. And those screen tests, well, they pretty much blew everyone away, even the studio execs who were initially so hesitant.
Wow, so Coppola really put his foot down, huh? That's pretty impressive. It makes you think about how different the film could have been if someone else had played the Don.
Right. And speaking of what ifs, Robert De Niro actually tried out for a role in the film, too.
De Niro? No way, really?
Yeah. He auditioned for Sonny Corleone. Can you imagine?
That's wild. Talk about roads not taken. But, of course, Pacino ended up being, just phenomenal as Sonny. So it all worked out, I guess.
Totally. It just shows, though, how much talent was circling around this project. Makes you wonder how many different directions the movie could have gone in.
Right. And, while we're on the topic of interesting casting choices, I heard a pretty funny story about the cat in that opening scene with Brando. Apparently, that wasn't planned at all, was it?
Oh, yeah, you're right. That wasn't part of the script at all. Coppola just, stumbled upon it. Literally, the cat was a stray just wandering around the Paramount lot, and Coppola thought, hey, why not?
That's amazing. Just a random stray cat making it into one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. I mean, talk about lucky breaks, huh?
Right. But get this, the cat, it turned out to be a bit of a sound problem.
Oh, how so?
Well, the cat was so, relaxed and cozy in Brando's lap that it started purring really loudly. And of course, they were filming, so the purring ended up muffling some of Brando's lines.
Oh, no. What did they do?
They had to go back and re-record some of his dialogue in post-production. It's called ADR, or looping, where the actor basically redoes their lines to match the footage. So this random cat ended up causing extra work for everyone.
That's hilarious. It's like this perfect, serious scene, and then behind it, there's this cat just purring away, messing up the audio.
Exactly. It makes you realize, even with these huge, carefully planned productions, there's always room for these little unplanned moments that add a bit of real-life charm to it all.
Absolutely. And speaking of unplanned moments, I was reading about Lenny Montana, the guy who played Luca Brasi. Apparently, he was really nervous around Marlon Brando, and it ended up working perfectly for the character.
That's so true. Lenny Montana, he wasn't actually a trained actor. I mean, he was a former wrestler and bodyguard. So, to suddenly be acting alongside someone like Brando, that was a big deal for him. Intimidating, even.
I bet. And that whole scene, where Luca is trying to, rehearse his speech to the Don, he's clearly all flustered.
Exactly. And that wasn't acting. That was genuine nerves. And Coppola, he saw that and he thought, this is perfect. He kept those flubbed lines in the final cut because it made Luca seem so much more, authentic.
That's really cool. Taking this real-life moment of anxiety and turning it into a really powerful character beat.
Right. And to kind of explain Luca's nervousness, Coppola later added those scenes where he's practicing his speech. It's a great example of how, sometimes these unexpected things can lead to even better filmmaking.
Absolutely. Now, moving on, I got to ask about the look of the film. The Godfather is known for being really, dark, literally dark. And that was all intentional, right? I heard the cinematographer Gordon Willis even got a nickname for that.
Oh, yeah, they called him the Prince of Darkness because of his style. He loved to use low lighting, lots of shadows.
I can imagine the studio execs weren't too thrilled about that, huh?
Oh, yeah, they were definitely concerned. They kept saying, it's too dark, people won't be able to see what's happening.
So what was the reasoning behind this darkness? Was it just for, artistic reasons?
Well, yeah, partly. But also, it was really important for setting the mood, Coppola and Willis, they wanted to create this sense of secrecy, of, hidden dealings. They wanted to emphasize the dark side of the Corleone family business, the shady stuff that goes on behind closed doors.
I see. So it wasn't just about making it look cool. It was really tied to the themes of the story.
Exactly. And Willis, he achieved this look by using very specific techniques. Like he often used key lighting from below, which created these really dramatic, long shadows on the actors' faces. And he minimized the use of fill light, which is basically the light that softens the shadows. So it was all very deliberate and, designed to make the audience feel a little uneasy.
That's fascinating. It's amazing how much thought goes into every single aspect of a film, even the lighting. And one thing that always struck me about The Godfather is how real the family dynamics felt. Did they do anything special to achieve that?
Actually, yeah, they did. Coppola, he wanted the actors to really bond as a family, to develop that chemistry naturally. So he organized these really interesting rehearsal sessions.
What kind of rehearsals?
They were centered around family meals. Like they'd all sit down for dinner just like a regular family. But the catch was they had to stay in character the whole time, like no breaking character no matter what.
Wow, that's intense. So they were basically living as the Corleones even off camera.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea was that by interacting as their characters in this casual setting, eating, talking, arguing, whatever, they'd start to feel more like a real family. And it clearly worked because those relationships on screen, that it feels so genuine.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you're peeking into a real family's life, even though it's all make-believe. Okay, shifting gears a bit, I was reading about how the word mafia is never actually said in the film. That seems kind of weird, considering it's, about the mafia.
That was a very deliberate choice, actually. It all stemmed from concerns raised by the Italian-American Civil Rights League. They were worried that the film would portray Italian-Americans in a negative light, perpetuating stereotypes.
And this league, they weren't just like a small group, were they? I heard they had some serious clout.
Yeah, their leader was Joseph Colombo, who had, let's just say he had connections to organized crime. And initially, he was dead set against the film being made at all. There were even threats made against the production, bomb threats, even a shooting incident involving the producer's car.
Wow, that's crazy. So they were facing pressure from both the studio and from the real life mafia.
It was a really tense time. And in the end, Coppola and the producers, they decided to comply with the league's request. They went through the script and removed every instance of the word mafia or Cosa Nostra.
And they managed to do that without ruining the story.
Yeah, amazingly, they did. They found ways to, imply things to show the reality of what was going on without ever saying the word directly. So it's still very clear what the film is about, but they avoided using that specific term.
That's really interesting. So even though it's a fictional story, it was still influenced by these real-world power dynamics. Okay, moving on to a rather infamous scene, the horse head scene. Using a real horse head, that was, that's a pretty controversial choice, wasn't it?
Definitely. It's one of those scenes that everyone remembers, and it sparked a lot of debate. But apparently the horse's head came from a dog food company. It was a horse that was already going to be, put down anyway.
Oh, so it wasn't killed specifically for the film?
No, that's what's been reported. Still, it's a disturbing image, of course. And there's even some debate about where that scene was actually filmed. Some say it was at the Beverly Estate in California. Others say it was at Sands Point Preserve in New York. Even the location of that scene is shrouded in a little bit of mystery.
Man, every aspect of this film seems to have a story behind it. Okay, last thing I wanted to touch on was Sonny's death scene. That was such a brutal and really elaborate scene. I can't imagine how they filmed that.
Oh, yeah, that was a massive production. They actually filmed it on a runway at Mitchell Field in Long Island.
Yeah.
And they built everything from scratch, like the toll booths, the guardrails, even the billboards. They wanted it to look like a real highway.
And what about the car? It looked like it had been riddled with bullets.
Oh, yeah, they went all out on that.
Yeah.
Used a 1941 Lincoln Continental, and they drilled a bunch of holes in it to simulate the bullet damage.
Yeah.
Filming that scene took 3 days, and it cost over $100,000, which back then was a ton of money.
Wow, that's dedication. And you can definitely tell that scene is so visceral, so impactful. All right, wrapping things up, The Godfather didn't just become a huge cultural phenomenon. It also cleaned up at the Academy Awards, right?
It did. It was nominated for 11 Oscars, and it won 3 of the big ones, Best Picture, Best Actor for Marlon Brando, and Best Adapted Screenplay. So, yeah, it definitely solidified its place in cinematic history.
Totally deserved to. But I remember hearing something about the film's score. having some trouble at another awards show.
Oh, yeah. There was a little bit of drama with Nino Rota's score. At the Oscars, it was initially disqualified from the Best Original Score category because it turned out that Rota had used a similar theme in an earlier Italian film. But at the Golden Globes, it was actually nominated and won Best Original Score. So, yeah, it was a bit of a bumpy ride for the music, but it eventually got its due recognition.
The making of The Godfather, man, what a story. It's like a movie in itself, full of creative clashes, real-life drama, and all these little moments that ended up shaping a true cinematic masterpiece. What do you think, what behind-the-scenes fact about the film surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Godfather. It's amazing to see how a film can face so many challenges and still come out on top.
Absolutely. Remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode where we'll be taking a look at another fascinating piece of pop culture history. We'll catch you next time.